My fire went out, may I stay? The cowboy hesitated. There's only one bed. The road had been empty for so long that she stopped checking the signs. Trees stood on both sides like silent watchers, and the sky had turned a deep gray, heavy with clouds. She tightened her hands on the steering wheel, trying to stay calm, but the cold had started to creep inside the car. The heater had stopped working miles ago, and now even the engine sounded wrong, like it was tired and giving up. She told herself it was fine. Someone would pass by, or the car would keep going just a little longer. Then, without warning, the engine made a sharp sound and went quiet. The car rolled forward slowly before stopping completely in the middle of the road. She sat there for a moment, staring straight ahead. Her breath came out in small white clouds. The silence felt loud, broken only by the wind brushing against the trees. She tried turning the key again. Nothing. She tried once more, slower this time, as if being gentle would help. Still nothing. Her phone was next. One bar of signal appeared, then disappeared. She checked the time. It was late, much later than she had planned to be on the road. Her hands were starting to feel stiff from the cold, and she could feel fear slowly rising, not sharp but steady. She stepped out of the car, pulling her jacket tighter around her body. The wind hit her face hard, making her eyes water. The road stretched endlessly in both directions, dark and empty. No headlights, no sound of other cars, just wind and the faraway roll of thunder. She went back inside the car and sat for a few more minutes, hoping the engine might somehow change its mind. But deep down, she knew it wouldn't. That was when she noticed a small light far away, barely visible through the trees. It wasn't bright, but it was there. Steady. Real. Hope often looks like that, she thought. Small, but enough. She locked the car, slung her bag over her shoulder, and began walking toward the light. Each step felt heavy. The ground was uneven, and her shoes weren't meant for long walks. The wind kept pushing against her, and the cold slipped through every small opening in her clothes. As she walked, her thoughts drifted to how she ended up here. She hadn't planned to drive this far. She hadn't planned much at all lately. Life had started to feel like a series of doors closing quietly, one after another. She had left behind a place that no longer felt safe for her heart, not because of noise or danger, but because of emptiness. She had packed in a hurry, driven without stopping much, and told herself she just needed space, time, air. Now she was here, alone on a dark road, walking toward a stranger's light. The house came into view slowly. It was a small ranch house, old but strong, sitting alone on open land. A wooden fence surrounded part of it, and beyond that, fields stretched into darkness. The light came from a window near the front door. She stopped at the edge of the yard, suddenly unsure. What if no one answered? What if whoever lived there didn't want to be disturbed? Another cold gust of wind answered that question for her. She walked up to the door and raised her hand. It hovered there for a second before she knocked. Inside, the cowboy had just finished cleaning up for the night. He moved slowly, not because he was tired, but because he liked quiet. The day had been long, filled with work that kept his hands busy and his mind mostly still. He liked it that way. He was washing his mug when he heard the knock. It wasn't loud, but it didn't belong. No one ever knocked. He froze, listening. The wind rattled the windows. The knock came again, a little firmer this time. He turned off the sink and walked toward the door. His steps were careful, not afraid, just cautious. Living alone teaches a person to pause before opening doors. He opened it just a little. A woman stood there, her face pale from the cold, her hair moving wildly in the wind. Her eyes lifted to meet his, and for a moment neither of them spoke. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "My fire went out. I mean, my car stopped. I saw your light." The words came out uneven, like she was holding back more than just cold. He looked past her at the dark road, then back at her again. She didn't look dangerous. She looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying too much for too long. "There's a storm coming," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I know," she replied. May I stay? Just until morning. He hesitated. He hadn't planned on company. He hadn't planned on opening his door to someone who carried questions in her eyes. His life had been quiet for years, built carefully around routine and distance. Letting someone in, even for one night, felt like shaking a wall he had spent a long time building. Still, the wind pushed harder and thunder rolled closer. He stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Warm air wrapped around her the moment she crossed the doorway. She let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. The house smelled like coffee and wood. Simple, safe. "Thank you," she said softly. He closed the door behind her and watched as she rubbed her hands together, trying to bring feeling back into them. "You can sit," he said, pointing to a chair near the small table. She sat, placing her bag at her feet, and looked around. The place was modest. No extra decorations, no clutter. Everything had a purpose. He poured her a cup of coffee without asking. When he handed it to her, their fingers brushed for just a second. Both of them noticed. Neither mentioned it. She wrapped her hands around the cup and sighed. "I didn't mean to bother you," she said. "You didn't," he replied, though part of him knew his night had already changed. They sat in silence for a bit, the storm growing louder outside. Finally, he cleared his throat. "There's something you should know," he said. "This place, it's small." She looked up, sensing more. "There's only one bed." The words hung between them, not heavy but honest. She swallowed, then nodded. "I understand. I can sleep on the floor, I don't mind." He studied her for a moment. She didn't look like someone who complained easily. She looked like someone who learned to accept things quietly. "We'll figure it out," he said. Outside, the storm arrived fully, rain beating against the roof like a warning. Inside, two strangers sat across from each other, both pretending this was just a night like any other. Neither of them knew yet that this knock on the door would mark the moment their quiet lives began to shift. The rain did not slow down. It fell harder as the night grew deeper, tapping the roof again and again like it was reminding them that the world outside was not kind. Inside the small house, the air felt warmer, but the silence between them was thick. She sat holding the cup with both hands. The warmth slowly returned to her fingers, but her shoulders were still tense. She did not know where to place herself, what to do with her eyes, or how long she was allowed to stay before she became a burden. The cowboy moved quietly around the room. He added a piece of wood to the fire and checked the door once more, making sure it was locked tight. His movements were calm, practiced, like someone who had spent many nights alone. Still, his thoughts were not as steady as his hands. He was not used to company, not at this hour, not like this. "You can dry your jacket there," he said, pointing to a chair near the fire. She stood and did as he suggested. The jacket was damp, heavy with rain. When she placed it over the chair, she suddenly felt exposed, like she had taken off a layer of protection. "Thank you," she said again. The word felt small compared to what she felt inside. They returned to their seats. The fire cracked softly, filling the space between them with a gentle sound. Outside, the wind pushed against the walls, but the house stood firm. After a few moments, she spoke. "I didn't think I'd be out this late," she said, staring into the cup. "I thought I'd reach town before dark." He nodded but did not interrupt. He had learned long ago that people spoke more when they were not rushed. "My car started acting strange earlier," she continued. "I ignored it. I guess I shouldn't have." "Most people ignore warnings," he said, "until they can't." She gave a weak smile. "That sounds about right." Another silence followed, but this one felt softer, less sharp. He leaned back slightly in his chair. "You heading somewhere specific?" She hesitated. The truth felt too big, too messy to explain in one sentence. "I was," she said finally. "I'm not sure anymore." He did not ask more. He noticed the way her eyes lowered, the way her shoulders tightened again. Some answers were better left alone, at least for now. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, marking each passing second. The storm showed no sign of leaving soon. "There's bread and soup," he said after a while, "if you're hungry." Her stomach responded before she could speak, letting out a quiet sound. She felt embarrassed, but he simply stood up and went to the kitchen. "I'll take that as a yes," he said. She watched him move around the kitchen, comfortable in his space. Everything he did seemed measured, careful. When he placed a bowl in front of her, the steam rose slowly, carrying a simple, comforting smell. She took a spoonful and closed her eyes for just a second. It tasted like warmth, like care. "This is really good," she said. He shrugged. "It's simple." "Sometimes simple is best," she replied. Their eyes met briefly. Something passed between them, an understanding neither of them named. As the night wore on, the storm grew louder. Thunder rolled close, making the windows shake. She flinched slightly at one loud sound, and he noticed. "You're safe here," he said, his voice low but steady. She nodded, though safety was something she had learned not to trust easily. Still, she wanted to believe him. Time moved slowly, yet quickly at the same time. The fire burned lower and the room grew quieter. Finally, he cleared his throat. "About sleeping," he said carefully. "The bed's in the back room. I can take the chair." Her eyes widened. "No, I can't let you do that. It's your house." He shook his head. "That chair's fine." She looked at it, then back at him. "You'll be uncomfortable." "I've slept worse places," he replied. She studied his face. He looked sincere but also guarded, like someone offering help while keeping a distance. "There's only one bed," she said softly, repeating his earlier words. "We can share it, just sleep, I trust you." The sentence surprised both of them. He did not answer right away. His jaw tightened slightly. Trust was not something he took lightly, especially from a stranger. "I don't want you to feel pressured," he said. "I don't," she replied. "I just don't want to take what little comfort you have left." The words settled deep inside him. He had not thought of his comfort as something someone else would care about. After a long pause, he nodded once. "All right, but we keep space." "Of course," she said quickly. They prepared for bed in silence. He handed her a clean shirt to sleep in and turned away while she changed. She noticed the respect in that small action. The bedroom was plain. One bed neatly made. No extra furniture. The fire's glow reached the doorway, casting soft shadows on the walls. She sat on the edge of the bed, unsure where to place herself. He lay down on the far side, careful to keep distance between them. A quiet understanding settled in. They faced the ceiling, listening to the rain. "I'm sorry if this is awkward," she whispered. "It's fine," he said, "just unexpected." She almost laughed at that but held it back. Minutes passed. Neither of them slept. Her thoughts raced. She wondered who he was, what his life looked like before tonight. She wondered why she felt calmer here than she had felt in months. He stared at the ceiling, feeling the presence beside him like a gentle weight. He had grown used to emptiness. This felt different, not bad. Just unfamiliar. The storm began to ease slightly, though rain still fell steadily. "I didn't tell you my name," she said quietly. He turned his head just a little. "You don't have to." "I want to," she replied. "It's been a long time since I felt like someone might remember it." He paused, then said his name as well. They lay there, sharing nothing more than names and breathing, but it felt like something important had begun. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her. Her breathing slowed, evened out. She slept. He stayed awake longer, listening, thinking. He told himself this was just one night, just a stranger seeking shelter. Yet deep down, he knew this night would not leave him easily. Outside, the storm slowly passed. Inside, two lives rested under the same roof, unknowingly stepping closer to a change neither had planned. Morning came quietly. There was no loud sound, no sudden light. Just a soft gray glow slipping through the window, touching the walls little by little. The rain had stopped sometime during the night, and the world outside felt calm, as if it had washed itself clean. She woke first. For a moment she forgot where she was. The bed felt warm, the room unfamiliar. Then she remembered the road, the storm, the knock on the door. She turned her head slowly and saw him lying on the other side of the bed, facing away from her. He was still asleep. She watched him without meaning to. His face looked calmer now, softer than it had the night before. There was something peaceful about him in sleep, like the weight he carried during the day had been set down for a few hours. She quickly looked away, feeling like she had crossed an invisible line. Carefully, she sat up, trying not to wake him. The floor was cold under her feet, but she didn't mind. She picked up her jacket, now dry, and held it close. For a second, she wondered if she should leave quietly. Maybe that would be easier. No awkward goodbyes, no explanations. But then she remembered her car, and the truth that she had nowhere else to go yet. She moved into the small kitchen and stood there, unsure what to do. She did not want to feel like a guest who waited to be served, so she searched the cupboards until she found coffee and bread. She moved slowly, listening for any sound from the bedroom. He woke up when he smelled coffee. For a brief second, panic rushed through him. Then he remembered the storm, the woman, the shared bed. He sat up and rubbed his face, feeling older than he had the night before. He stepped into the kitchen and stopped when he saw her standing by the stove. "Oh," she said, turning quickly. "I hope you don't mind." "I just wanted to help." He shook his head. "It's fine." They stood there, unsure how to begin the day. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Better than I have in a long time." He did not know why, but those words stayed with him. They ate breakfast together at the small table. The morning light made everything feel different, less heavy, less uncertain. Outside, birds had returned and the land looked wide and open again. After a while, she spoke. "I should check on my car," she said. "See if it starts." "I'll come with you," he replied without thinking. The road was muddy, but the walk felt easier than the night before. When they reached her car, her heart sank. It still looked lifeless, sitting there like it had given up. He opened the hood and studied the engine carefully. She watched from a distance, not wanting to get in the way. "It'll take some time," he said finally. "I can try fixing it, but it won't be quick." She let out a slow breath. "So I'm stuck." "For now," he said. "You can stay until it's done." She hesitated. "I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not," he replied simply. Back at the ranch, the day unfolded slowly. He went about his work, and without asking, she followed, offering help where she could. She fed the animals, swept the floor, and carried water. Her movements were careful but willing. He noticed how she didn't complain, how she paid attention to small details. It felt strange, having someone share the space he had kept to himself for so long. As the sun climbed higher, they talked more, not about big things at first. Just small ones, where she grew up, how long he had lived there, what the land was like in different seasons. Then, while resting under the shade of a tree, the silence shifted. "I didn't plan to run," she said suddenly, but staying felt harder. He didn't look at her. "Sometimes leaving is the only way to breathe." She studied his face. "You sound like you know that." He did not answer right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. "I lost my family years ago," he said. "After that, noise felt wrong. People felt like reminders." She nodded, understanding more than words could explain. "I stayed too long somewhere that stopped seeing me," she said. "I forgot what it felt like to be heard." The wind moved through the grass, carrying their words away but leaving their meaning behind. That evening, as the sun dipped low, she felt a familiar pull inside her chest, the feeling that this calm would not last. "I don't want to overstay," she said. He looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something tighten inside him. "You're not," he said. "But if you want to leave, I won't stop you," she smiled sadly. "That's the problem, I don't know what I want." That night the house felt different again, warmer, fuller. They did not talk about the bed this time. They simply went to sleep as they had before, leaving space, respecting silence. But this time the silence was not empty. As she drifted off, she wondered what would happen when the car was fixed, when the road called her back. And as he stared at the ceiling, he wondered when he had started hoping the engine would take longer than expected. Outside, the stars shone clearly for the first time in days, watching two people slowly realize that shelter sometimes becomes something more, quietly, without warning. The next morning began differently. The sun was soft, its golden light spilling across the open fields and filtering through the windows of the small ranch house. The air smelled fresh after the storm, with a hint of damp earth and new beginnings. Birds chirped from the trees, filling the quiet with gentle music. For the first time since she had arrived, she felt a sense of calm she hadn't known in months. She stepped outside to breathe in the morning fully. The wet grass clung to her shoes, and droplets hung from the leaves like tiny jewels. She glanced back at the house, and for a moment she hesitated. The night they had shared under one roof, the quiet that had grown between them, it all felt unreal now in the daylight. She wondered if he felt the same, if the shared closeness had left an impression on him as it had on her. Inside, he was already awake, tending to the animals. His movements were methodical, strong, and quiet. Watching him, she realized how much effort he had put into shaping a life that was his own, simple but full of purpose. She couldn't stop herself from admiring it. The discipline, the care, the calmness, it all contrasted sharply with her own chaotic life. She walked up to him, not wanting to disturb but needing to say something. "Good morning," she said softly. He looked up, giving her a faint smile. "Morning, sleep well." "Yes," she said, "better than I expected, actually." He nodded, returning to his work. "Good. The fire helps. And the bed." He didn't finish, but she understood the thought behind the words. They moved together through the chores of the morning, their movements almost synchronized without a word. She fed the animals, fetched water, and helped clean the small barn, while he repaired a fence and sorted through his tools. The simplicity of the work brought them closer, though neither admitted it. There was an unspoken understanding forming, a recognition of comfort in shared silence and effort. At midday, they rested under the shade of a large oak tree. She sat, brushing grass from her pants, while he leaned against the trunk, sipping water from a tin cup. The air was warm now, with the scent of sun-baked soil and faint smoke from the last night's fire. "I didn't think I'd enjoy staying here," she said quietly, "but I feel calmer than I have in a long time." He looked at her, surprised by the honesty in her voice. "Sometimes a place doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to let you breathe." She smiled, understanding more than the words could express. "You make it feel like that." He looked away, not used to praise or sentiment. He had lived so long alone that even a kind word from a stranger felt unfamiliar, almost fragile. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, the thought of her car and the inevitable need to leave returned. She couldn't ignore it forever. "I should try my car again," she said softly. "See if it starts." He nodded but didn't speak immediately. Then finally he said, "I'll help, but it might take time, and you might have to stay longer than you planned." She felt a strange relief at his words. Part of her had been afraid of leaving too soon, of losing the connection they had begun to build. Yet another part of her still feared staying too long, breaking the quiet balance of his life. They walked back together, her steps careful over the muddy ground. The car, still sitting silently on the edge of the field, seemed even smaller and lonelier than she remembered. He opened the hood and checked the engine with a practiced eye. She stayed back, not wanting to interfere but unable to tear her eyes away. "It'll take some work," he said finally, "not just a quick fix," she sighed. "I guess I'm stuck." "For now," he said, "but you can stay if you want." The way he said it felt like more than just shelter. It felt like permission, acceptance. She nodded, letting a small weight lift from her chest. The day passed slowly. They worked together, moved together, laughed quietly at small mishaps, tools dropping, a stubborn animal refusing to move, a bucket spilling water. The routine made them feel lighter, more human. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she belonged somewhere, like she was not just passing through life but taking part in it. As evening approached, the sky painted itself in soft shades of pink and gold. They sat on the porch, the silence between them no longer tense but warm. She felt something stir inside her, a mixture of fear and longing. "I'll have to leave soon," she said finally, "once the car is fixed." He turned to her, his eyes holding hers in a way that made her chest tighten. "You don't have to if you don't want to," he said carefully. I don't know what I want," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached over and handed her a cup of tea, warm and comforting. The gesture was simple, but it spoke volumes. It said, "I notice you. I care. I see you." Night came quickly. The fire burned brightly, casting soft light across the small room. They sat close, though still careful, sharing warmth and quiet conversation. She told him stories of her past, not the painful ones, but moments that had shaped her, made her who she was. He listened without interruption, his presence steady, reassuring. Later, as the wind picked up outside, she felt the pull of fear she had carried for months. Fear of loneliness, of being rejected, of losing this fragile comfort. She looked at him, unsure what to say, how to ask for what she needed without pushing too far. I don't want to go," she said quietly. He looked at her, feeling the weight of her words. His chest tightened with an emotion he hadn't felt in years. He had built walls around his life for protection, but now, in the quiet of the firelight, those walls felt unnecessary. "I don't want you to leave," he admitted softly. The words hung between them, fragile but honest. For the first time, they were not pretending that this night, this connection, was just temporary. They prepared for bed again, but this time, the distance between them felt different. It was not just space. It was respect, awareness, and a quiet willingness to share life in a way neither had anticipated. As they lay down, side by side but careful, the silence was no longer uncomfortable. It was comforting, safe, real. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, two hearts that had been cautious for so long were beginning to learn what it meant to trust, to feel warmth not just from fire, but from another person. And deep down, both of them knew that something had changed. Something real, something that neither had planned, was quietly growing between them. The kind of change that does not shout or demand, but waits, patient and persistent, like a new dawn breaking gently over the horizon. The morning light came slowly, stretching across the horizon in soft golds and pinks. The world outside the small ranch house looked peaceful, the storm from days ago now just a memory etched into the wet earth and glistening leaves. The air smelled fresh, carrying hints of grass and soil, a smell that made her chest feel lighter than it had in weeks. She woke first, as she often did, and for a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered, the small house, the fire, the shared bed, the cowboy who had opened his door without hesitation when she needed shelter. Her heart thumped in a mixture of nervousness and warmth. It was strange, the way a single night followed by a few days could make someone feel seen, even cared for. She moved quietly, careful not to disturb him. He was still asleep, lying on the far side of the bed. His face looked softer in the morning light, less guarded, almost peaceful. She watched him for a moment, feeling a strange tug in her chest, a mix of gratitude and longing. She wondered if he ever felt lonely, really lonely, or if he had just grown used to the silence. Eventually, she got up and stretched, the wooden floor cold beneath her feet. She walked to the kitchen, preparing coffee as the aroma filled the small room. She moved with purpose, wanting to do something helpful, small, and meaningful. It was the first time in a long time that she had felt capable of contributing rather than just surviving. He woke shortly after, joining her silently in the kitchen. His presence was calm, steady, like a familiar rhythm she didn't realize she was missing. He handed her a cup and their fingers brushed ever so slightly. Neither said anything, but both felt it. A simple touch, yet it carried an understanding neither of them had dared speak aloud. "We should check your car," he said finally, his voice low but steady. She nodded. Her chest tightened. The car was the reason she had been on this road in the first place, yet she no longer wanted to leave. Not really. The thought of going back to loneliness, to a life without the warmth she had felt here, was unbearable. They walked together to the car, the morning sun drying the last traces of mud on the ground. Her car sat silently, still lifeless, the engine stubbornly refusing to turn over. He opened the hood, studying the machinery carefully, while she stood back, watching. "This might take a while," he said after a few moments. "I can try, but it won't be quick," she exhaled slowly. "So I'm stuck. For now," he said, "but you don't have to leave if you don't want to." The words made her chest flutter. She had expected practicality, instructions, maybe a shrug. Instead, she heard acceptance, permission, and something more, an offer of comfort, of connection, unspoken yet deeply felt. Back at the ranch, the day unfolded slowly. They worked together, moving through chores and tasks with a quiet understanding. She fed the animals, carried water, helped fix fences, and swept the floor. He moved beside her, guiding her hands when necessary, laughing quietly at small mistakes. Each shared moment, each small conversation, drew them closer without either needing to acknowledge it. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in golds and purples, a tension lingered between them. It was not the kind of tension that demanded confrontation, but the kind that hummed quietly, a recognition that something important was growing. Something neither had planned, yet both felt. "I'll have to leave soon," she said finally, her voice soft and hesitant. "Once my car is fixed, I mean." He turned to her, his eyes holding hers in a way that made her pulse quicken. "You don't have to if you don't want to," he said carefully. She looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously. I don't know what I want," she admitted. He walked closer but didn't touch her. His voice was low, steady, sincere. "Then stay, if you want. No pressure, no expectations." She met his gaze, feeling something break inside her. A small wall she had built around herself for years began to crumble. She realized she didn't have to face the world alone, not anymore. That night, they shared the bed again. This time, the distance between them felt natural, not forced. The space was not uncomfortable. It was mutual respect and quiet acknowledgement of each other's presence. She felt safe. He felt hopeful in a way he hadn't allowed himself to feel for years. They didn't speak much, only the soft hum of fire and the occasional murmur of the wind outside. Yet the silence was full, alive with possibilities. Each small gesture, a brush of a hand, a shared glance, a quiet laugh, carried weight. As they drifted off to sleep, she realized that what had started as one night of shelter had become something far more significant, something neither had expected. Something that could change both of their lives forever. The next morning her car roared to life. She smiled, a mixture of relief and bittersweet emotion. It was time to leave, and yet she didn't want to. She looked at him, wondering if he felt the same hesitation. "I guess it's time," she said softly. He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Yeah, I suppose it is." They walked to the car together, their hands brushing. Neither let go immediately. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything. For letting me stay, for just being here." He managed a small smile. "You're welcome, and don't forget you're always welcome back." Her chest tightened at the words. They both understood the meaning behind them. This was not the end, not really. It was a beginning, a chance to explore what had quietly grown between them. She climbed into the car, engine running smoothly this time. He watched her, feeling a strange mix of longing and anticipation. She rolled down the window slightly. "I'll see you again," she said, her voice soft but certain. "I'll be here," he replied. She drove away slowly, the house and the open fields fading in the rearview mirror. Yet inside both of them, something had shifted permanently. They had found connection in unexpected circumstances, warmth in a cold night, and trust in someone who had been a stranger only days before. The road stretched ahead, uncertain and long. But for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. And sometimes that was all that mattered. As she disappeared into the distance, he turned back toward the house, breathing in the quiet. A smile tugged at his lips. Life had a way of surprising people when they least expected it. And perhaps, just perhaps, this was the start of something neither of them would ever forget. Outside, the sun rose higher, casting light over the land. Inside, the memory of one stormy night, one shared bed, and one unexpected connection lingered, quiet, enduring, and full of hope. This was no longer just a shelter from a storm. It was the beginning of a new story, written together in small moments, gentle understanding, and the courage to open one's heart. And in that, both of them found something they had been missing for far too long: the warmth of being seen, truly seen, by another human being.